Right, we've established a quorum. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting at 6:04. Everyone would like to bow their heads with me for the invocation. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come tonight together to discuss our budget, to discuss town business. We ask for your wisdom and discernment and guidance as we make decisions. We ask that we are respectful to one another and that we do what is best for the town residents as we make decisions for the town. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. These are the flag day.
All right, our next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda, but I do think we have some small adjustments that need to be made.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Can we add under the consent agenda, subparagraph C, sale of cemetery lot?
Yes.
And I would ask that when we do the approval of the minutes, we do them separately because one of the council members was not on the council on May 12th.
I also ask you to add a.
Okay. Okay, and pursuant to the closed session, pursuant to section 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia, to request advice from our counsel for the board. Counsel for the council.
There are no further changes, so I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
You need to amend the bill pay.
Okay.
The bill pay needs to be amended to include stocks general contractors. A pay amount $135,486.96, and also 2 cemetery deeds totaling $10,000.
You've already added the cemetery deeds.
Okay.
So is that going to be under considerations of accounts?
Is that, yeah.
Okay, is it just in there? I don't know that we added it. Is it on the list already?
The stock.
It's on, so
It's on the,
it's on the bill list.
It's in the bill list?
yeah.
Okay, well, if it's in the bill list, then I think we're good.
Before I had anybody yet. Adoption and being built.
Well, he was saying we needed to update the bill list, but if it's on the bill list already, then we're good to adopt as amended. Okay.
Make a motion to be clear.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll.
Ms. Hart or Ms. Rigby.
Abstain because I'm not quite sure what's going on down here.
Yeah.
Mr. Henry,
4.
Mr. Craig,
4.
Mr. Purcell.
4.
Sorry. You walked in at a perfect moment. All right. We're going to move to our next item on the agenda, which is the public comment section. This is an opportunity for citizens to discuss matters that are not listed on the printed agenda. And we got to do the consent. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The next item is the consent agenda items. I know we are separating out the minutes. So do I have a motion to approve just the May 12th minutes right now?
So move to approve the May 12 minutes.
Any discussion?
Ms. Rigby,
Or
Mr. Henry,
4.
Mr. Craig,
4.
Mr. Purcell,
Abstain.
Ms. Hart.
Move to approve the May 19, 2026 minutes.
and the rest of the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Do you make that motion?
Yes. Motion to approve the May 19th. We're doing it separate.
Yeah, just the consent agenda minus the make vote.
Needs.
Okay,
It's one vote on all of the consent agenda items.
got it.
And we'd like restate that the way that, so
So that we know what we're.
I'm gonna let somebody else make the motion because I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to say. We're trying to approve the May 19 minutes,
You're
right?
trying to move the
Yeah.
consent
The whole
agenda to
consent
one vote, that's
agenda.
why it's a consent agenda.
Less than May 12th.
So you can vote on the items under the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So it's one motion would be a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the May 12th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So move to approve all of the consent agenda items except the May 12, 2026 minutes, which would include the accounts appropriations, May 19 minutes, and the sale of the cemetery.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Henry,
Four.
Mr. Craig,
Four.
Mr. Purcell,
Four.
Ms. Hart, or Ms. Ruby.
Or. Now that I'm marking my things off, now we will move to the public comment section of the agenda tonight. This does give our citizens an opportunity to discuss matters which are not listed on the printed agenda or are not in a public hearing. Any person wishing to bring a matter to their attention under the section should state their name and address, and then the matter they wish to discuss. Just understand that it is typically not a Q&A discussion, but more an opportunity for that citizen to just speak to the council. And we do ask, if possible, to limit to 3 minutes or less. Do I have anyone sign up? Do I have anyone that would like to talk? No.
I'm sorry.
All right, we will move to the next item, which is the comments and discussion by members of town council.
Madam Mayor, if I may. So I got three things. First, I've always wondered, and now that I'm a council member, I guess I can get the answer to. We have this water tower with a bunch of antennas on it. And I want to know whose antennas are they and what are they paying us to be on the tower?
There was a broadcast company at one point, I think down by the New York building or so, that originally put an antenna on. I don't know what any other ones are. I questioned that myself. But I had no idea where you get paid more.
Well, I can tell you, Councilmember Purcell and I, not too long ago, were walking down the alley and saw people on the tower.
That's inspections.
Okay, well, I would ask that we endeavor to figure out whose antenna are on the tower, because I think there's liability for having antenna on the tower, and if they want to stay, they need to start paying. They should pay something if they're going to be there.
So I was gonna figure out.
Right. The second thing I have is on the town website. I think we've all agreed we probably don't want to be political with our statements, and I noticed that on one of the homepages, it describes Louisa as a progressive town. I think that would be the equivalent of saying it's a conservative town, and I think we probably should try to shy away from politically charged statements about political ideology. And then my third item that I hope we can address is the phone system here in the town office. We don't have live people answering the phones, and some of the phone extensions have voicemails for employees that haven't been here for 9 months. So I think our IT people need to get on that and get the voicemails updated immediately, so that when people call and leave a message, they don't think they're leaving a message for somebody that hasn't worked here. Especially when our voicemail tells them, the system tells them you're calling one person and then somebody else's voicemail picks up. But it's just, I think it's something we can address pretty simply. I encourage us to get that done if we can.
Anyone else?
I have one thing. I'm currently looking for the court order for the 1977 annexation. As some of you are aware, we have some individuals that have been waiting for sewage hookup for well over 20 years and getting paid taxes the whole time. We haven't done it because the town keeps telling us that first we don't have the money to do it. So I and to see how many other people are affected that we are not providing services to their being taxed.
If it's valid request,
I don't even recall.
but not you, did the citizens require or file a request for connections?
Oh, yeah, they filed requests over 20-something years ago. And they've had it multiple times since then. It's still not that. And so I'm looking at the extent of that issue. Yeah.
Well, extensive. That's why the commissioner power will take you.
Supposedly the court orders in the
Court order that says.
yeah, the annexation, the judge during the order included that here are the taxes individuals, you have to provide them the same tax service.
Yeah, that's all, what area you're talking about, so I can see how much, like.
Polyverse is one, the mobile home park
They reached out to me
is another.
possibility.
They are all part of the same process.
I talked to the guy quietly, and he inquired about what it would take to look to our waterways. I haven't heard anything since then. He did talk to us about it, but I told him there's water on his side of the road and sewers across this side.
Yeah.
So in order to provide sewer there, it'll take a little more because that's a quite issue, but street, it's part of tax bracket. I've spoken to him before, I haven't heard anything since then now.
One of the residents brought up the court order issue. That's why I'm looking for the court.
I thought that he was the main one.
What year was it?
1977.
And there's a process for them to submit a request for a sewer connection,
Yeah,
correct?
and the way it would work is since it's a private road, it's similar to Lee Street. I guess we took it in and that's how everything went down that way. For the maintenance of it, I think we would have to get something ready for the easement as well as for water and sewer. And then figure out what our easement will fall for meters and clean that.
And part of the problem was these requests were submitted after the annexation. We still have not done the work. And they have submitted multiple requests over successive individuals in this town office. And over the course of over 20 years, they just said, Louisa doesn't care, they're still taking my tax money, but now, yeah. It's coming to a head, so that's why. But that's it.
And Mayor, I'm happy to look at it. It's never come up in my
So I've never heard.
many years working with the town, and I'm going to say, so general tax dollars are not what pays water and sewer. It's user fees, so it's connection fees, it's monthly service fees. It's not just because you pay general tax dollars does not require generally for the town to extend sewer water service. There's a mandatory connection if they're within 100 feet, but that's what the town can impose. There's no ability for property owners to require the town to extend. Sometimes it happens in large developments. There's an agreement, the developer agrees to pay for the extension. But as far as what may or may not be in the court order, I can look for it too.
That's why I was on the court order, because I know what they're saying, but I have to see the words myself.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the annexation court order required extension, and if it did, it would have been done back then.
Correct.
So it may touch on it. I would look at it, try to track it down as well.
And just to be clear, the connection is not to their house. The connection is to allow them their house.
And all the people quietly, there's within 100 feet, they were wanted to, we just have to figure out responsibility and all that.
I would say let Jeff take a look at the court order. Councilmember Hart would like a copy as well, and then determine kind of the next steps at that point.
Soon that would be in the chancery orders from 1977. Clerk office.
Out of curiosity, where was that? Where
Was the what?
was the corridor? Where was
Or
the corridor?
the corridor, it's a couple.
We're gonna stay, point of order, we can just stay on task and,
Yeah.
and we can, I know that'll be in the court order. Do we have any other council discussion?
Well, I would like to say that, sunset event went very well. Very organized, very good. I think everybody was happy. Things worked out pretty well there.
Thank you for being here.
Roger with my muscle. All right, we can go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business, starting with our first item, which is the discussion and action of the community event ordinance. I do believe that Mr. Gore has provided a draft of the ordinance for review.
I can set this up a little. Real quickly, at the last meeting, talked about the need for special consideration for one-time community events so that these folks aren't taxed with all the three taxes that our code currently allow: business license, meal tax, and itinerant merchant. Town attorney and I've been coordinating. Appreciate that. A quick turnaround on an ordinance that defines what a community event is and then exempts these events with submission of a special permit. So for tonight, I think the decision to approve the ordinance, if you agree to it, and then there is something for a 45-day waiver. Requires a 45 days submission timeline, but you can authorize a waiver for the 4th of July. Did I capture that? Jeff?
Yeah, that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is just what we thought. This is our attempt to capture the discussion prior meetings. You already have a section. The first part of the ordinance you'll see is your existing festival music and entertainment event chapter of the code. So it just adds into that because there's already a framework there for collecting permits. And then it's the second part of it. It's on page 3, I think, which is really gets to the policy council. And that is to, as Stuart said, they exempt these events from B-Poll, from business licensure, and from food and beverage tax. But it's limited to these events have to be no more than 3 days. And I think there's a limit on how many times they can do it. And as well, the exemptions, if they exceed those duration limits, they lose those exemptions. So it's one permit that covers the whole event, and there's no need for a business license or business license fee or tax. I mean, the definition is fairly broad. So I mean, there are things that you guys could eventually look at it and tighten up if you feel a need to. And I think the idea was just get something in place now. If you all go forward, you can go forward. It can always be revisited based on how it plays out.
Can I ask a question?
As long as it's go through the main, yeah.
Does this apply, does this exempt like the car shows that the auto parts stores and all do periodically, are they exempt from this?
If it's it's a fair show, there's a definition on page 1, a fair show, exhibition, or celebration conducted over 3 or fewer consecutive days, involving a gathering of groups, individuals, and vendors. So it sounds like it. And I think there is a limit on how many times it can be done. You can't do it. So it sounded maybe if it fits this.
Goes on now, and I want just trying to make sure we don't lock them out by what we're doing here.
This doesn't stop anything that's always been happening. All this does is create a new path that's easier for some if they fit this.
And just to confirm, this is specifically to them paying a business license.
Yeah.
So like a car show where people just have a car show at the Hardee's or something like that. They're not operating a business. It's the ones that are like a pop-up vendor that comes for a community event rather than having an annual license. They would be exempted for that community event.
Right. If you're not conducting a business or selling food and beverages, you're not subject to these taxes anyway. But I mean, it could be potentially the event sponsor. I don't know. If Ford dealership
Yeah.
sponsors it clearly, but they're already subject to all the licensure. I guess it could be some traveling car show entity that maybe an auction or something that is periodic and goes travels around. It could be something like that would be exempt.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, if you're not selling anything, if you're not in business, just a gathering of people, it's not subject to these license fees or taxes already.
I think it's our-
Sure.
Well, Madam, so we have a lot of events that take place on the courthouse lawn that would fall under the definition of community event, such as National Day of Prayer, Memorial Day events, because those would, I believe, fall under the celebration.
Mhm.
So they would need to pay a fee to do those?
Depends on if there's a waiver of the fee, I believe, for certain entities.
Okay. They would have to file an application with the town.
We get permission from the court. Because we do the events. We get permission directly from the judge at the courthouse, because the court owns that.
I get that part.
I know, I'm just saying. I'm telling you, we don't. So that would be a change that would have to occur. Because we don't file applications with the county.
That's my point. So this seems like that's going to require an application to do those events.
Possibly, that's why I'm saying.
I don't think possibly, I think it's going to be mandatory.
Well, most special events, I mean, you guys approve special events all the time.
Yeah.
It usually requires, it's going to be a gathering of people. You got to run it through police, you got to run it through fire and safety. You got to run sometimes VDOT. So it's not like gatherings of event and people are exempt.
No, the courthouse works with the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department handles the police escorts. That's how it's been working every year. Well, then we do it every year. That's why you never see the permit, because it's always approved by the court. It's not approved by the town. And that's why you're bringing it up. That's why I just need to clarify whether we need to start following.
I'm wondering if it shouldn't be thought about for events on the courthouse lawn. Yes. Because the judge doesn't allow for-profit type events. He only allows civic-minded events on the courthouse lawn. You know, he'll let a politician come do an introductory thing, or he'll do the National Day of Prayer, or do military stuff, things like that, which it just strikes me that because under this definition, I think they would fall under the purview of this application. And I'm not sure we want to put people through those kind of things just for a courthouse lawn event.
There's a courthouse lawn in the lunch.
Absolutely, it's on Main Street.
Yeah, I know that. I thought it was owned by the county.
It is owned by the county, but it's in the town.
There's an exemption as far as paying the fee, that's on in 82, so just say, see that, section 82-4. And again, only the strike through and italicized underlined language is what's new, so there was already this exemption in your code for festivals, music and entertainment events, exemptions for the permit fee, right? If it's put on by fire and rescue, service clubs, schools, charitable organizations, nonprofits, and I add in governmental entities just to get at the issue of, the town's conducting something. So that's covered as far as the fee. If you want to clarify certain events that are not subject to the permit, certainly do that.
We do, we have to probably relate to the fact that the court is handling those, it's not
Sure.
town. Because those are the only ones we're talking about.
When you look at the definition under community event, would you consider an exhibition, National Day of Prayer, I would consider that an exhibition, but it's put on by a nonprofit.
It's also a celebration.
Yes. They don't.
I just think there should be a carve out for events that take place on the courthouse lawn. Should not require application, because the judge, as Ms. Hart pointed out, regulates that.
So that could go in section 82-3 in there.
Okay.
So that's a section that says when the permit is
My only concern with that is if we have, there's a large event. That is on the courthouse lawn. Then it could potentially impact traffic within town, require the town police or other considerations by the town because of the number of people going to an event on the courthouse lawn. I certainly don't necessarily think we should be charging a fee for that. But I do think by having that permit process, it also allows us to recognize that something, to know that there's something going on there. I don't know if just a blanket exemption of events on the courthouse lawn. And then does that differentiate from events that are on the courthouse lawn and adjacent to the courthouse lawn? For instance, like the tree lighting ceremony typically involves the courthouse lawn plus the kind of court square there area and stuff as well. Would something like that potentially require a permit? But not things just limited to the courthouse lawn itself, regardless, the judge has to sign off on it regardless of whether or not they have to do an additional permit or not. I'm just wondering if a blanket exclusion is the way we would want to go from that standpoint.
Maybe we should table this and look into it or something.
And we can refer to the
Governmental
that one,
Committee?
yes.
that would be you.
So. I do think we should tinker with that a little bit, just because the judge and this makes a great point that I haven't fully contemplated. We haven't done the town. We used to shut down the street right around the courthouse for events, and we haven't done that in a couple of years. I don't know why, but I don't know who does those.
We've shut down the little court square area, like the little
Right,
loop of, I don't even know if that's called.
regularly, but we haven't done it in the last year or two, have we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess I haven't been paying attention, so.
Good.
Sure, not in town.
So. It was my understanding that, council wanted this in place in time for the July 4th, which means if you don't adopt it now or at some point before then and have a special meeting to do it, it won't be in place by then. So you could, I have some language here that we could try, and then if it ends up not working, it's amended, but to get it, Councilman Craig's concern, and Mr. Rick's concerns are valid too, but something along the lines of this, at the end of that 82-3, permits shall not be required for such events held on courthouse, merely courthouse property when such events are approved and regulated by the court. Make it so it's like they're in control of the event. That doesn't mean, that just means that this. But if you don't have to do anything to just know that if you don't do something before July 4th, this won't be in place. And so there'll be some, issues with vendors which we're trying to solve.
Well, seems to me, I think our main Madam Mayor is maybe we just pass it as is and we add the additional language later about the exemption. I'm not aware of any courthouse events over the next several weeks. I don't know what they all are, but just gonna have to deal with it, I guess, and we can try to figure it carve out. Figure out to carve out later. And it's easier to add to it than to rework it after we pass it, maybe. Strikes me that way at least.
But we're adding these additional, essentially, events to the special use event or the special event permit section, right? That's separate from the requirement for a business license. It's kind of two different
Yeah,
things.
that's in the chapter 83, page 3. It's a separate part of the town code.
what has been done? Is there a problem? Are we making a problem? I mean, what happened when we had a July 4th celebration last year? What, did everybody have to pay a fee?
I think that by code they should be, but I think in practicality that may not be happening. Trying to make it easier to have these community events that, because you do have some people that are rule followers, so they see the code and they say, oh, well, you have to pay $200 if you want to be a merchant in the town for this one community event.
Make the code consistent in practice.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, in which case, what we're doing is we're essentially eliminating the need for a vendor to come in and have a business license if they're going to do a community event.
We would just have to try to.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is sometimes because it says three or more, but is that 3 or more? It's the community event or celebration conducted 3 or fewer days, but it said somewhere it's
Very loud. It says 3 or more events in a calendar year.
80 feet. Okay, so whether an event sponsor or participating vendor, so either one shall forfeit the exemptions.
Yes, but we have it.
So we're putting the burden on staff to go through, determine which vendors are at each event and then monitor that throughout the year so that when we hit 3, you go back and tell them, hey, the revenues from the first one, we need you to pay taxes on those. I feel like that could potentially.
That's currently the burden that's in place now. Right, so
Well,
currently,
that
that's the current under your code.
they're supposed to be
Is
collecting.
that all these vendors should be applying for business license, if you pay a business license fee, pay the gross receipts tax if their gross receipts qualify under the old system of the tax. So that's the current. So this doesn't create a new burden. It eliminates the burden for both vendors and staff. And that's why you want to have a permit so that you know who has done it. And the permit is filed ahead of time, you know, who the event sponsor is, so the town can track that. You know, and that way, if someone has more than 3 of these, or you would know, that's why there's a permit requirement. Now, you could also, at one point in prior staff report, we had some recommendations to have that permit list all the vendors. Right, that can be something that staff just does in a permit form. Because if this is adopted, a permit, an application will have to be generated. So that could have a list of vendor lists.
Right.
And that would be an easy to track.
I'm just thinking either whether you're tracking them from the beginning, if you go there and you have to say, hey, you're a vendor in a town for this event, you should have a business license, or if we then put them on a list and then we have to track that list till we get up to 3 and then go back and contact them. Either way, it's still, to me, it's still staff time either way. So I don't know that we've eliminated the burden if somebody doesn't get up to 3, but we haven't eliminated the staff burden from that standpoint. Tracking things, I feel like. And we're gonna have to get, the application's not gonna give you enough information because the application isn't gonna have all the vendors on it, because most places are gonna take vendors up until the last week or so of the event, in which case the application should have already been received and approved for the permit.
So can we have a requirement on the application that says you need to provide us a list?
That's what Virginia Beach does. This is model of a Virginia Beach program that's much more robust and has the pages of regulations. And we were just trying to make it simple. But all the questions you ask could be addressed if you want a 5-page ordinance. Right. So that's the trade-off, is trying to make it simple. You can't answer a question.
Yeah.
It just great to add on to what she's saying. The county needs programs. So events that they hold there that are vendor that they bring vendors in for? Do those vendors have to, be part of this tracking mechanism? Because we don't control that. That's the county.
But the county does file for a permit through the town.
They file for a permit, but they don't list all the vendors.
Right, we will
would have
require
to.
that on the
That's what I'm asking. Now, this is gonna require us to, the county also provide us with that information while they're. That's what I'm asking.
which Parks and Rec already does. I already have a list when they have vendors.
And so the point of this account was to make it,
Mhm.
get rid of a disincentive to businesses from doing business. So if you don't think this is doing that, you don't have to.
So, I'm gonna ask one more question and I'll be done. So, would we then, by this definition, if we had in the future something, say a farmer's market
Mhm.
that has multiple times, those businesses would not qualify under this program because they would be coming, and so they would still be required to have a business license in, okay.
Other questions, recommendations?
If I could, so to Jeff's point, the 4th of July is approaching. What is your recommendation on to accommodate the 4th of July? You could just, I mean, two paths, Madam Mayor, Councilman, that is one to just do what you've been doing, right? And not go around.
Not enforced.
Yes, not enforce. So that's one option, is to let this sit for a while and just not enforce anything and run that event, let that event happen, and then come back and revisit this. You can do that. Another one is to adopt this and you would have to also, once you adopt this, you see there's a provision to waive the 45-day application time. Council can do that, or you can authorize the manager. That would be a subsequent action. You'll authorize that waiver since we're within that window. So you can adopt it and you can always work on it later, or you can not and just keep doing what you've been doing for how long. Either way. Either way.
My last comment is, my only concern is being a person who participates in courthouse approved events at least about 3 times already this year already. So this is not something that only happens once a year. It's various organizations doing various things on various days. So, and they're all run through the court. We're gonna, if we do this without that clause exclusionary, because the courthouse works it out with the sheriff's department, and I think they work it out with chief. So it gets around them because they always end up out there. And so my only thing is, how many are we going to tell the court that from now on you need to make sure when you approve these events that they have to go to the town and file an application, because that's what's not happening. That would have to happen for every single thing those judges approve.
Now it has, is the court itself the sponsor of these events, the actual organizer, or are they simply allowing a sponsor to use their property?
They give the approval for the property and they make the communication to the sheriff's office.
Or they are not the event sponsor.
There's typically a
So
sponsor.
the
The sponsor
so
would be.
each event would be a different event.
Yeah, like
Unless-
Memorial Day is the VFW,
the
Veterans
VFW
Day
would be
is
the
the American
sponsor.
Legion. It's all different.
So there's all different sponsors.
But they go through the court, the judge, and they have it every year. That's why.
Council, you can shape this however you want.
Quite frankly, do we have anybody checking these people?
The judges.
Huh?
The judges.
The vendors. Do we have anybody that checks them to see if they have a license, to see if they
I have no idea. I've never been a vendor, so.
Don't think we do for the small events. I know certain food vendors typically have to go to the health department. And have their permitting and everything from that standpoint in order to provide, but I don't know that. There's been any.
Just also think that there is a level of responsibility. There's just a level of responsibility of individuals who are going to be putting on activities within the town to hopefully know what the requirements of the town are.
Well, so we could table it and
Yeah,
just say
perfect.
we're working on it. If anybody asks, but the idea is that there's going to be more community events, and so something like this, but I think we could
Did we,
go to the committee.
do we currently have a list of all the vendors that have attended all these events?
It's just not been organized.
Okay. So it's essentially starting from day one.
But there's going to be more events, so I think it's something
So are we tabling that item?
that would be possible.
I think the option is either table it or proceed with it as is, and if we decide we need to amend it for an additional clause for the border.
I'm inclined to pass it and we can fix it. So I move that we pass this.
There's a second
Second.
discussion. Roll call.
Right.
4.
Four.
Sorry. Against, I was getting plan for tracking, so against. Ms. Ritchie. 4. Joanne.
4.
We move to the next item, which is the discussion and action on the adoption of the 26-27 budget resolution and tax rates.
And do a quick overview, or we can just go into it.
I think everyone's pretty well versed on the budget at this point. It's not, I think we have bigger problems. No, citizen taxes. And tax rates. Are there any motions on this ordinance? Or discussion?
Make a motion.
If you would like to.
I move to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 budget resolution and tax rates.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Well,
4.
as far as. 4.
4.
Joanne.
4.
Right.
4.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move to the next item, which is the adoption of the 26-27 water and sewer fee ordinance. I think it's directly behind that in your packet. there any will on the ordinance?
Questions?
So is there any will of the council on the ordinance?
Okay, motion that we approve the water and sewer rate.
The ordinance.
Yeah. And then what we're talking about?
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion?
Tasha, four. Sorry, Rose. Rigby, four. Peter Henry,
Four.
Craig,
Four.
Or
We're gonna move to the next item on the agenda, which is the adoption of the 26-27 planning and zoning fee ordinance.
Move to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 planning and zoning fee ordinance as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
Rigby,
Four.
Peter Henry,
Four.
Mr. Craig,
Four.
Mr. Purcell,
Or
Ms. Hart.
Next item in old business is the discussion and action of the fiscal year 25-26 budget amendment. I think
I'll handle it. So at the April council meeting there, you mentioned that there was a possibility of grants that could be secured for downtown Sunset Market and events. We did receive an Amazon grant for $1,000 and need to recognize that in this year's FY 25-26 budget. Consultation with the treasurer and VML consultant put together this budget amendment to recognize that grant, which increases this year's budget by $1,000.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
any discussion.
The motion for it, and they're not, like, the account number is missing a number. I don't know that needs to be in there.
We can update it if you'd like. Pretty soon.
It's just supposed to be 100 instead of 10.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we put the budget amendment to recognize the downtown events, Amazon grant. To include the as amended account number.
We already had a motion in a second. Amendment.
Any discussion?
Mr. Henry,
Four.
Mr. Craig,
Four.
Mr. Purcell,
Or
Ms. Hart,
Four.
Ms. Britt.
4. Next item is their new business, which is the discussion and action of the new organizational structure flow chart, as well as some potentially new positions here in the town.
Okay, so I hope everyone had a chance to read this document that I forwarded last week. In a nutshell, I'm proposing a new organizational structure so we can be more proactive. Yeah, my observation, the organization is reacting to problems as they occur, water main breaks, sewer main breaks. It's nothing against the staff, but if we can readjust the organization for more executive, forward-thinking problem solving to identify problems in advance and nip them before they become issues in all things. I think the organization will be a much more proactive organization. This would allow us to be more effective in our service delivery, get on top of all these water sewer breaks, do more project management, look for more grants, do more code enforcement, a list about 15 things. Do more intergovernmental relations things to go after state and federal funding sources, complete the ARPA projects. The ARPA projects all need to be completed by December. If we have more executive planning, forethought, and strategic thinking rather than just putting out fires. So in a nutshell, I make the case for you lawyers. I have listed out about 15 things can do more with project review, look at existing policies, create new policies that are more up to date, do more urban planning, look at FEMA flood insurance. I want to look at expired contracts such as the solid waste contract in detail to see if that's appropriate for, that's an old contract going back 10 years. Can take on more ad hoc projects. This would also free myself up to do more in the community. Town manager be able to do more with business owners, do things like develop a long-term cash flow model to look at our forecast of costs, do more with the HR function, work more in partnership with VNOT, and get out really out of the office and bring me up to do more in the community. I would like to meet with every business owner and find out what's on their mind. I would like to figure out what their needs are and be and have the organization be more proactive with what's happening in the community. Thank you. I
So
think this structure will achieve that.
the only update that I would, or recommendation I would make to just the way that the flow chart is currently listed. You've got the maintenance workers kind of looking like they report to the worker two, who kind of reports to the foreman, who then reports to the director. So I think that there needs to be just a shift that they all would report, kind of like in that prior structure, they all report to the director, and you would have a foreman that would have a dotted line to kind of some, because you would have oversight, the individual has oversight, but not managerial responsibility. Is that a
Sure.
fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's fine. So within that structure, I'm proposing these three new positions, as well as two, we discussed in the budget, two more maintenance workers to get more, we get more labor on the street and have more proactive planning. I think that'll make the organization more proactive, more resilient, more effective.
There.
Yes.
Discussion.
If you, there's no motion, so if you have questions or.
I don't foresee a problem with the proposed organizational chart personally. I was a proponent of adding staff to Anthony. The maintenance has been woefully understaffed. I do wish that this had been brought to the personnel committee. And that we'd had more time to look at this prior to being on the agenda. But I understand we can move forward so that hiring decisions can be made.
Answering your question.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
sorry. I think personnel committee is where this needs to start in terms of memo. Your Stewart is referencing with some of the things that he's identifying on here that he wants to change and whatnot. I would hope we'd have a chance to provide some guidance on that. I'm done sharing for it.
Okay, two things. One, when I was on the personnel committee prior to the changes you made, we did discuss a lot of this. So it was discussed, we just did not see this org chart, but we discussed additional maintenance. We discussed the deputy town manager, told them we needed assistance. So this was discussed in the personnel committee. We just did not, that was before the committees were changed. Also, my question, and then Jeff, we have a town clerk, we're required to have a town clerk, but I see on here that we don't have a town clerk on the org chart. So my question is that really deputy town manager / town clerk? Is that what that is? Or should I be asking you?
That's correct. Yes, it's within those.
And Jeff, my understanding is the town code that talks about having a town clerk, it's the clerk that's appointed by council. Not necessarily a position within the org chart, but council's appointed clerk.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
It traditionally has been the clerk
That's
that's.
correct. So it's kind of inconsistent, but here's how it goes. So council appoints manager or treasurer, chief, attorney. Those 5 positions are appointed by council. However, everyone rolls up to the manager. So when it comes to day-to-day management and supervision, which I think is what this is given. So yeah, you can always put a little asterisk to make sure we have, council appointed. So those 5 positions are council appointed. And so from time to time, council could assign clerk duties to different people, right? So it could be the deputy manager, as I think the manager's suggesting. It could down the road be someone else. It's an appointment council mix, as is treasurer.
But just to clarify what it should, so is this deputy town manager / town clerk? Is that what that position is?
The duties of the clerk are incorporated in that position. I sent out the job descriptions.
Yeah, I saw it. That's why I'm asking, because I don't see, and I know that we appoint that, and I don't want to get that people confused by looking at the org chart, wondering where the town clerk is. That's what I'm asking.
Those that.
Okay, 100% correct. Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
I have a much different view of the town manager's duties than what I'm seeing in this memo. I think the town manager's job is to make sure that everything in the building is working properly, the trains are running on time, the emails are getting answered, the phones are working. I think it's the mayor's job to do a lot of the things that we're seeing in this memo. So again, I'm the other member of the personnel committee, the now constituted personnel committee, and I do not support some of these views as a member of the personnel committee. So I certainly can't support this in this form. Notwithstanding the job descriptions, I have the same concerns Ms. Hart has about the lack of a clear clerk in the organizational chart. And I have strong concerns, candidly, that a lot of this is pushing some of the town managers' jobs down to lower positions when those should be taken on by the town manager. So I have deep concerns about this.
Shouldn't the town council be above the town manager
Yes, I think
organization?
for this, he was looking strictly just outpatient organization.
Nursing town staff.
Organizations. Yeah.
And if I can just get a legal point of clarification, our charter says our mayor ceremonial function only, and the town and the council determines the direction the town goes and the managers implement something along those lines. Can we move those responsibilities to the mayor? I don't think we can. That's why.
So your code is very prescriptive on manager duties. It's a very long list.
Right.
He's essentially runs.
That's what I thought. That's why I wanted to make sure.
So the mayor doesn't have day-to-day obligations or duties under the charter or your code. But if you want to look at your town code, it's very prescriptive on manager's duties, treasurer's duties, clerk duties, chief duties, council's duties, attorney's duties. It's all set out in your code. Yeah, questions?
Does the proposed organizational chart align with our code? What we're being asked to vote on the business.
I mean, I think
Acting proper.
mean, it could maybe be a little more clear. I mean, I think it's really just adding the position and realigning who reports to who. But I think, if it does, it could be clarified a little to track with your code. Like council is above manager, it could clarify who the council appointed positions are. But, I don't know that it contradicts. I think it could be sort of meshed a little cleaner with what's in your code, but um, that's something we can look at.
From my I'm sorry, from my position, these people are responding to the town manager. Town manager implements what we council direct. There is no conflict here. The only difference is that it took out the label of the town clerk that I can see. Other than that, there really is no difference. So there is really no conflict in that regard.
That was my only note, was I wrote /clerk next to the deputy manager just to have that on the chart.
So,
And the other thing is just, maybe you already discussed this, the treasurer wouldn't. Yeah, it's interesting having the treasurer report to the clerk when ordinarily the treasurer reports to the manager. Those are the only two things questions I had. And the deputy clerk reporting to the treasurer instead of the.
And that was the only other question I had, is what he just said regarding the treasurer.
I'm looking at the, man, not there.
Yep.
So I'm looking at the position of town manager. There's 9 prongs to the jobs of the town manager. And it's all subject to the review of the town council. This code that was just, I believe, council member Hart was responsible for selling a foul to get this passed last year, which is a job well done. But it lays out some of those things, but we're going to have a session later on. We can talk about that.
We have a charter.
Well, I'm talking about the charter, yeah.
Okay, the code as well is even more true.
Okay.
And we did,
The town code?
yeah, just,
Did we read out that after we got the charter we got?
well,
No, we haven't. The town code has not been.
there was a draft that was made to mesh with the new charter. It just was never done. So you would have to, do whatever. But yeah, so my only recommendation would be to, move the treasurer over underneath the town manager and the deputy treasurer. So that the finance, and there can be a dotted line between the deputy town manager and the treasurer. Because they still work together, if that makes sense. But other than that, I have no problems with it. Just the addition of the town clerk under that deputy town manager.
If we move the treasurer over, shouldn't we move the deputy treasurer over underneath?
Yeah. There can be a dotted line between the deputy town manager, because if they're filling in for the town manager, obviously, they need to have the ring. So if they're filling in for the town manager, they have all these things anyway.
The thought, at least in the discussions that I've been privy to, was that because the deputy town manager is going to be taking on additional responsibility that's not just within his absence, there will be like.
Yes, that's why he has it like this.
Yes, if you let me finish, that was why they were recommending having the treasurer report to that individual, because part of deputy town manager does include financial reviews and things like that.
I'm not sure. We didn't discuss that in personnel because finances are different from administrative. And typically the town manager does the personnel reports, not the deputy town manager. I'm not sure how you were, if you gave that responsibility to the deputy, being responsible for the oversight of their appraisal process, or do you kept that?
I'm due performance.
Yeah, so see, so he still has that, so he does not have those functions. So that, that's why the treasurer doesn't really report to that person. The treasurer works with that person. And the deputy treasurer obviously works with Francesca, so, and that was my only comment. The clerk and, the treasurer and deputy, we just split up. Town manager with the dotted line between the deputy town, because they do work together. They do work together, but she's, or he or whomever is not responsible for the oversight of the treasurer. The town manager. And that's the only change recommendation everything else, the numbers all match up, except we added 2 more maintenance workers. That was it. Everything else, the numbers are the same.
We have on here. Even under emergency, the deputy town manager has no control over anyone else, but. Treasurer and deputy treasurer, deputy clerk. They don't have any control over maintenance or. If the town manager. Show that.
Yeah, so this is just the recommendation for the just normal day-to-day operations. You don't usually have another part for if he's out. There's just a
You'll have a second chance for that.
no, we don't usually have a second. I don't know, Jeff, is there usually a second chart for if the town manager is out?
You certainly have policies and
Yeah,
job
I feel like the delegation, the job description speaks to the deputy town manager. That's just like, what's the norm?
Yeah, but like if Anthony. Mr. Burrell's out and Anthony's working and. the Deputy town manager says, I want you to do this, this, and this, and you can say, you're not my boss.
Well, that's why the job descriptions and the policies kind of outline that in manager's absence, the deputy town manager fills in.
It's saying, be nice, what's going on.
This is not common practice that you would have a separate org chart just for when he's out. That's usually documented in a policy or a job description.
Deputy town manager beside. I'm shutting up.
I think what. I understand what Mr. Henry's saying, but I think what in your example, if the town manager is absent, the deputy town manager is now acting as the manager, then that position is now not deputy town manager, they are acting the town manager, so they are in control of everybody, who's like the town manager was. And then when the town manager returns, then that person goes back to their deputy. And that way, the organization chart will still work, because you're temporarily assuming another role versus your assistant or deputy. You're now no longer deputy, you're acting town manager, so now you're both at the top. That's why I don't think we need to.
I'd like to,
I work for you.
What you
you always talk about. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to implement the recommended org chart with amendments to have the town clerk designated on the chart, and we can't put it with the deputy town manager, and to have the treasurer directly underneath the town manager and the deputy directly underneath the town manager, but leave the rest of it as is. Just add town clerk and move the treasurer, the deputy treasurer box over.
They should be hired. So this is just new position. So
I know there's a motion on the floor, but do we? We don't, we have a second, sorry.
We'll wait for a second.
There's no
If
second.
there's no second, the motion fails, and there is not, less than one half, another motion, there is a commission order.
So additional questions. I mean, I feel like we don't necessarily have to approve the organizational chart as far as exactly who's lining up with who. I would.
We can send that back to personnel
We
and
could send that back to personal welfare. I think what we really need to try and approve is whether or not we're comfortable with. Do we want to add these new positions? For the director of public works, the public works foreman, because they're two new positions, and a deputy town manager slash clerk, or adding that deputy town manager piece into it. I think that's the main things that we're trying to determine tonight, is to whether or not is to try and proceed with those. Now, I will state, we have already approved the budget, which was based on these positions, looking at having funding for all of these positions as new positions within there. The only thing I'm not sure about is I can't recall how many public works positions we had. I know we added one, but I don't know if this is an extra one or if it's the extra one that we added, because I can't remember the total one there.
Yeah, a seasonal, a part-time, 2 full-time, and then one.
So we did add one, and that was what you have currently.
Yeah,
I mean, not currently staffed, but currently available, open or filled position.
one, a full-time, and then the seasonal goes away in October.
Before,
I think it includes the positions that were created as the last budget. I think in terms of position.
Okay, I'm good. Madam Chair.
Yeah.
This way, would you like to make that motion? There's 3 positions to be approved.
sure.
Second.
resolutions. And
3 resumes, we have to do each one individually. Can
you
we,
just want
we can do it all in
all the resolutions.
Okay, so one motion for all.
I move to adopt the 3 resolutions for the creation of director of public works position, creation of former public works position, and creation of deputy town manager position.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Or
Do we need to?
Or sorry, a position.
Okay, so we don't have to answer the question, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. No further question.
any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brazil.
4.
Ms. Harder. Ms. Ricky.
4.
Mr. Henry.
4.
Mr. Craig.
4.
Passes unanimously. We'll move the structure into personnel committee.
Let the direction of council.
Is that what council would like?
That's further discussion would be like to direct I'm in favor of directing the personnel committee to have further discussion and looking at the org chart structure to be represented at council at a later meeting.
How about the job descriptions?
I'm fine with review of those as well, but other councils need for that would be my suggestion as a single council member. Others?
Well, council, no, personal, but here, he's here.
Motion, please.
None.
You can be without objection if it's the will of council, however one handle that way.
Okay, so it sounds like it's without objection. We'll move that to personnel. We're gonna move to our next item, which is the standing committee reports. Starting with Public Works.
Reports. You have a meeting about stock and their overages, and we delayed that until for further discussion, until we get more information from fractions. They did pay the ditch line on West Street, got that paid. Anthony got the manhole in on Fredericksburg Avenue for the sewer. And you got the meter in down road, yeah, road in. Anything else? Meter. Meadow Avenue. Yes, and we decided to delay Meadow Avenue until the next meeting to discuss about water connections.
So you'll just be expecting that on the July agenda and supporting materials for.
Got it? I think that's it. That it, David?
Thanks, son.
Public safety, I don't think they met. Finance,
Finance committee met. Recommended to approve the staff report on their bill paying procedures, which will be on our agenda for next month. You may discuss the police server. More questions were raised without answers, and more information is needed, so that will likely be on our agenda for next month as well. There was some discussion that during the budget, there were some questions that were asked about certain expenses, and that was council's direction. Then the finance committee could look into those with staffs to research possible cost savings. So the direction of council. Anything else? Probably so.
All the things we don't know if the council would like the committee to direct it to look into additional potential cost savings.
is the rest of council doing? Directing the finance committee to work with staff on identifying potential cost savings in the budget. So at the will of council, move to community development and events. Met.
A lot of, we talked about the next sunset meeting. We're gonna have a school. And we're gonna have it for school kids, bring backpacks, school supplies, so forth. And we may even have a raffle that we can have to help these school kids out. Starting. So it's going to be a great deal. And the next month, we're going to have a bigger event. And July 4th, lockout is going to be big.
The committee did want to confirm if council would be agreeable to allowing a donation box in town hall for school supplies for a back to school drive, which would also be inclusive of the rest of the community. Many of the businesses want to get involved and the churches to collect donations for the children and for the schools. Is there any objection to that? Okay. Moving to cemeteries.
There's nothing going on. We haven't had any meetings, so we haven't any direct to do with that.
Are there any direction from council regarding cemeteries?
I would love for someone to look into the cost of the columbarium.
Anthony has that action. He got back from the last council meeting.
The cost of.
Each time you out the door.
Yeah, and the fees that we're paying, Stephanie had reported, we've not solved the columbarium since the new policy was implemented on previous council. Which is not good for finance. And it's arduous at best that the fees that we're charging for someone to put a pair in there. So Glenn and I were looking into that.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. Was Anthony looking into the fees or was Anthony looking into the cost of like a replacement?
Insurance. That's what the fees are so high. That's exactly what he's looking for. The fees are so high because if they drop it, that's what replacement cost.
Well, is that
He
Anthony's
was looking at,
responsibility?
I'm sure.
That, okay, I get that. I'm thinking he individual was, yeah, I was just. Sorry, I was just trying to clarify because I was not clear on what that was instructed to do or Anthony or any staff in general. I was just trying to understand. I mean, I think staff can help gather information such as insurance costs and replacement costs of one of the marble door front.
Yeah, that's all I'm
But I do think that it would be the committee, I think directing it towards the committee to confirm whether or not how those costs line up with their fee structure and what adjustments may or may not be made there to then bring back to council would be approved.
concur. And we're waiting to get the results back. When we discussed it at the prior meeting, staff was going to look into it. So we have not heard any feedback yet. So that's why we don't have anything.
One understanding the reason it's so high is because insurance won't cover it.
I think
Anyone check with our insurance.
I would say that. So the will of council is to have the cemeteries committee potentially meet and have staff prepare prior to that meeting, verifying if the insurance applies to those items, if they were to be dropped, what the costs of them are, specifically if they are not, so that then the committee can make a recommendation if those fees are still reasonable.
That was the directive last week. So that we already have that directive.
I would recommend that committee set a meeting so that they can give a timeline to staff for preparing materials. And staff can then report if that's a reasonable timeline.
The committee would have to meet to determine that timeline, so. What to call a cemetery committee solely for the purposes of directing staff the time.
I think when you call the meeting, you're asking for the materials to be available. That's what she's indicating. So.
You essentially by calling a meeting indicating the timeline, and if they think they can't meet that and they need more time to be able for you to have your meeting, then they would direct you as such and you would adjust your meeting time. Or day.
About talking with staff, I don't want to give them a 1 month or whatever, because they've got a lot to do right now. I need to talk with staff to see what would be a reasonable time, because they had this assignment already and they have not had time. So that is, so I will talk to staff. We'll go from there.
And then the last committee, intergovernmental relations,
We have
reports from staff,
Anything additional
nothing additional.
to what's in this packet on
Yeah.
Do you have any applications going on?
They keep coming you every couple of weeks for the past 2 weeks or so between training Sergeant McKenna and preparing for the 4th of July. I have not reviewed any in the past 2 weeks. But Sergeant McKenna is going to look at these this week. There are 3 applications, but as council is aware, they are coming. But a lot of those just don't, the background process. But we do have friendly applications.
Anything additional on public works from the report?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Gore?
No reports.
Ms. Dorman?
So besides my treasury report, I do want to let you know VML's, it's done. I haven't received their final bill or two. But they're done. They're no longer coming. Finished. We almost at the 40 cap, so I cut it, not to pass it. But I did reach out to a new consultant. I talked to her, but I'll have more information for you for the next meeting.
Mayor, question here, Francesca, does that proposal include a possible software upgrade? Then, or you're just talking staff?
This is from me to help me do the bank recs and gather everything I have to talk about. The software, I think.
Software upgrade.
Yeah, yeah.
Software upgrade needs more review. We talked about this in finance committee. We need to look more at internet connection and what the possibilities are for software capacity. It needs more study, but certainly we talked about this in the CIP. We need to move to a modern cloud-based system at some point. It's just how we get there. It's cost prohibitive, but also there's a capacity that has to be addressed.
That was my other question.
Anything additional to the town manager's report?
Just real quickly, the water main replacement, we had some incidents on Frederick Square today. It's moving on, even though we have these disruptions, moving to conclusion. I think in the next 3 weeks, perhaps, within 3 weeks or so. They're beginning to prep West Street and Hammock for paving in the next few weeks. Not moving as fast as a linear foot progression. Some brief thoughts on that, but it is moving lurchingly to conclusion. We will get there. Sewer manhole for 203 Fredericksburg train storage lot is now in place. You saw that in the bill pay. So now the railroad is ready to go for everything we can do, make them operational. I want to mention that we're doing more billing relationships with the new VDOT engineer. We met with the VDOT engineer. The mayor, vice mayor, police chief, and I met with the new resident engineer to discuss all our traffic issues, the road and sidewalk conditions. And this is a relationship opportunity with the new engineer. In the past, it's been difficult to break down that wall, but I think we have a new resident engineer that's receptive. So I thought it was a productive meeting. There's a 2x2 meeting with the county leader to discuss water sewer available capacity. The Hillcrest Cemetery, we did set this as a strategic goal back in January to get a new contractor at the cemetery. The contractor is doing a stellar job at Hillcrest. Looks really good. And a much more administrative, efficient billing once a month. So don't need to prod him. He's there and it's looking good. The police, we received a grant for 6 new speed detection devices for improved traffic management, and we're going to work on it. Chief Nachman and I are going to work on speeding management plan, not just using technology, but also that as we fill the police department. Police department, as he said, now is a sergeant and a part-time patrol officer. As our increased pay that we increased last February is increasing staff. The 4th of July event is ready. Good job. That grant. Finally, for the new counselors, I would like to set up a day with my department heads, let them go over their duties and let you ask them questions about what they do with their day. So I'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the closed session. We make a motion to move into.
Yeah, sure. I move that in accordance with Virginia Code Sections 2.2-37A1 of the Code of Virginia, Town Council convene in closed session to discuss personnel matters regarding performance evaluation, job assignment for specific employees, and pursuant to Section 2.2-37A7 of the Code of Virginia to discuss the pending litigation of Moore et al. v. Louisa, of which I will not be participating, and pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-37A8 to seek the advice of town council, legal counsel.
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll go ahead and move into closed session. Here we go.
Probably be the week of the 20th. Might be the best week.
Mayor, we're back in open
That
session.
we are now reconvening in open session. At this time, we'll certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion to enter the closed sessions were heard, discussed, or considered. We have a second?
Second.
Any-
You said you.
Okay.
In a roll call.
Roll call.
Or you, sir, yes, yes, sir, you, four. Mr. Henry,
Four.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Yes. Or yes. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, that.